Welcome to part 1 of the Gill Sensors Tank Profiler tutorial, connecting the display and sensor and introducing the software. Before we get started, you will need the Tank Profiler software, a PC or laptop running Microsoft Windows with a spare RS-232 communications port. If you do not have this spare port, you will need to connect via USB using an RS-232 to USB converter, a Gill S2 liquid level display with connection and calibration cables, a 12-volt DC power supply for the display, and a Gill liquid level sensor with suitable 5 to 30-volt DC power supply. The first thing we need to do is connect the gauge and sensor. Connect the calibration cable to the back of the display. Now connect the opposite end of the calibration cable to the connection cable. With the display's 12-volt power supply turned off, connect the red lead to the power terminal and the black lead to the ground terminal. Please note that the green wire is not used here. Next, connect the orange signal wire to the analog output from the level sensor, usually a yellow or orange wire. Connect the sensor's red and black wires to power and ground on the sensor power supply, leaving it switched off for now. The green and white wires from the sensor are not used. With the sensor and display now connected, we need to connect the system to the computer. Plug the D-type connector into the spare RS-232 port on the computer to complete the connection setup. We are now going to power up the sensor and display and launch the software. Press and hold the circular button on the front of the display while powering up the display and sensor. When Set appears on the 7-segment display, you can release the button. The display should now show a 3-digit number. This is just the firmware version and isn't important in this process. When the display goes blank, it is ready for calibration. To launch the Tank Profiler software, just double-click on the software icon, either from your desktop or directly from the USB stick. You will first be prompted to choose the correct communications port, often labelled COM1, 2 or 3, etc. Select the correct port from the list to continue. The software home screen is now shown, displaying the various options for calibrating and setting up the display. Automatic Setup calibrates the display to show a linear representation of tank contents over the 29 LEDs. Custom Setup gives full control over the number of LEDs showing at any given tank level. Import Setup allows upload of a CSV setup file containing information about the number of LEDs to show at corresponding sensor voltage output values. Display Setup allows adjustment of the visual configuration of the display, such as the amount of damping and LED brightness. The following parts of this tutorial series go into greater detail about the calibration and setup functions available.